I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Dr. Kennard, you know the crew here. Dr. Tom Foolery, not a fluffernutter. There's a story behind that, I'm sure. We have General Baker and Tobin Templeman and John Hudson. What's up, John Hudson?
Not much. What? How you guys doing?
Just living the life right here. Looking
Nice.
forward to traveling to your farm in Vermont. That's what I'm looking forward to, John.
Yeah, the kids are all about it. So, been actually looking at some things, what we can turn around and dump this place for. And
well, Vermont, you know, a couple of things about Vermont. One is that it does get cold in the winter.
I lived in Utah.
Okay, you lived in Utah, so you know the deal. And of course, the big selling point for Vermont is how close it is to fucking Canada.
I really love the weather here, but you know, the trade-off would be fair.
Sure. Yeah. I can see that.
Nick said he'd build me a sunroom to where I wouldn't get my seasonal clinical depression. Yeah.
Well, yes. How are you doing, Sammy? Are you having some kind of seizure over there? You look like you're moving around.
Oh, I'm adjusting the hoodie. It's too hot to have it on, but it's too cold not to. I'm sort of somewhere in between, so I'm wrapping it around myself and seizing at the same time.
Very good. Yeah.
I shared an MSNBC clip.
Okay. Here we go.
There's someone speaking about. Oh, is that the screen I shared? Is it?
I think that's the screen, brother. Yeah.
Let's try that one again, shall we?
Okay.
It's just someone commenting on what happens or what's a result of all these voting audits and all this crying fraud. Share screen, audio, tab.
This is what you come to hear.
Absolutely.
All right. We got it.
Pay for this.
No less, within hours, because he told them to, Republican leaders in Texas obliged. Late last night, the Texas Secretary of State's office announced that they had begun a comprehensive forensic audit, but not in the whole state, only in the state's 4 largest counties: Dallas, Harris, Tarrant, and Collin counties, 3 of which were won by President Biden. This despite the fact that the Republican-appointed Secretary of State who oversaw the 2020 election had previously said it was smooth and secure. Well, now Trump wants it reviewed anyway, and so, sir, yes, sir. Now, exactly who ordered the election audits of these 4 Texas counties does remain something of a mystery. The Texas Secretary of Texas is already announced.
President Donald.
Okay, this is the lady I wanted to say.
All right.
Yesterday, President Donald Trump urged Governor Abbott to investigate the Texas election results. And within hours, an investigation was announced. In Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, politicians who've lost all decency are pursuing similar audits. Texans are smarter than this. Playing politics with the integrity of elections threatens our democracy. Every time you cry wolf, every time you yell fraud, every time you run a phony audit, you are tearing down our democracy brick by brick, and I'm speaking to every person who is playing a part in this. This does not deserve to be treated as a serious matter or a serious audit. It is an irresponsible political trick. It is a sham. It is a cavalier and a dangerous assault on voters and on democracy.
Well, she's completely spot on with that because if anything that we've learned, right, so just basic psychology, is that if you're able to throw out a bad idea out into the world, then it becomes progressively difficult to get rid of it, to clean that out of the population. So if the only thing he's doing, crooked fraud elections, just repeating that over and over again from state to state to state, the only thing people are going to remember, regardless of what the results are those terms: crooked, fraudulent election. And that's what's going to stick in most idiots' brains because we have idiot
Mm.
brains, you know.
And the crying wolf part too. Every time it happens in the future now, people will be numb to it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, fraud. Here we go.
Right.
So, fraud is essentially given free rein.
Yeah.
When you do that.
And she made a really good point that it does undermine the entire system, right? And that's the goal of fascists is to undermine democracy. And what's the best way to do that? Apparently, it's by attacking the voting system.
Yeah.
Well, Greg Abbott,
Which America does well.
No, what's that, John?
Greg Abbott is such a bootlicking bitch. One phone call and here, let me taste that leather.
Yeah.
It's sad. The politics are what I love the people here. It's the politics that are going to drive me the fuck out of this state.
Yeah.
And it's all the people, and I hear a lot of these people saying, goddamn, people can go back home where they come from. Well, the prosperity in Texas is from all of us assholes that moved down here.
Well, that's true. When you look at, so there are only a handful of states that actually put in more money into the federal government than they get back.
Texas isn't one of them.
Texas only by a small, this is the last numbers that I saw, which were from a few years ago probably, but only by a very small amount. Texas gave in more than it received. And I think the reason why is because they treat their people like shit. They treat their people like shit, so they don't spend money on those people. So that's why they give more money back to the federal government than they take in. Unlike states like New York, for example, or California, that treat their people better, but they still have enough money to give to the federal government.
I was just looking at Sammy's picture.
Oh, yeah.
General Baker.
Andy, do you think a part of why Texas was able to contribute was because they basically annihilated the EPA and everybody is now drilling for oil and making billions of dollars where they couldn't before because of like wildlife and water and things?
Petrol states in general are corrupt. States that have a lot of mineral wealth are typically corrupt. When you look at Saudi Arabia, when you look at Texas.
Well, when
did you say that Saudi Arabia was a state?
Well, Saudi Arabia is a corrupt state.
Fair enough.
And the reason is that the government, it's only one industry, right? So we know that basically, traditionally, the middle class is built on tradespeople, right? On people just doing their jobs. But the thing is about mineral wealth is that it all goes through the government and in terms of taxes and manipulation, so they can use that money and use it corrupt, like in Saudi Arabia, for example. The reason why Norway hasn't been corrupted by its mineral wealth is because Norway has strong democratic institutions and they've been able to deal with the mineral wealth. But places with a weak state like Texas, that money corrupts the entire system. And that's and Louisiana too. Louisiana is pretty much run by the fossil fuel industry. And that state is one of the poorest and dirtiest and stupid in the nation.
Yeah, they can't even fix their levees and keep their cities from flooding in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is, it's all self-inflicted, right? I mean, the only thing that it isn't just the levees, it's just allowing the marshes, right, and the wetlands to create this buffer zone between, hurricanes and in New Orleans and other cities on the coast. Yeah. I remember reading my dad's National Geographic like years ago, 25 years ago, saying that New Orleans, Louisiana and New Orleans in particular are going to have problems in the future. And sure enough, very predictable stuff.
Very predictable. Yeah. You just wonder, though, if there's actually been a meeting or if there's actually been hundreds of them where the rich elites were sitting around and they were saying, you know, it would be better for everyone, including us, if we put some money into some infrastructure here and rebuilt these levees so that we didn't have disasters where people were completely screwed and we had to like offer them money to save their lives in desperation. Maybe we should fix some of these levees and bridges. Maybe we should fix some of the roads. Maybe we should, you know, do some of this stuff so that we're actually dumping billions of dollars back into the economy by having people who are working on this infrastructure make a bunch of money and go through the system, and they're buying cars, they're buying houses, they're buying paint and lawn seed and all this stuff from Home Depot and Walmart and all the big companies. And at some point, somebody in that meeting goes, yeah, but if we give them all this money, they might spend it with someone else.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like,
Yeah, I think there's this cycle. There's a cycle that if you are running an oil refinery, let's say in Louisiana, and you live out of state or your corporate offices are out of state, then, what's the incentive to actually help the wetlands, right? Because if nothing else, you're kind of betting on the state or the federal government to bail you out or to bail out those systems over time, which they have been. So if anything, the fossil fuel industry has this incentive just to be bad.
well, and that's a part of the problem is the fossil fuel industry, the mineral industry, the pharmaceutical industry are operating right now without consequences, right? Every time they make a gigantic mistake, they get bailed out. The automotive industry. I mean, if the automotive industry failed again, do you think for 1 second it would take more than a week to bail them out?
The automobile industry is like farmers in this country. They
Not
have
in Australia. We don't bail our car industries out.
Yeah.
We have no real manufacturing of any kind left in Australia. None. It is despicable, and I'm ashamed to say it.
Yeah.
Our governments have really mismanaged that, in terms of our future.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and we lost so much trade with China. It's crazy.
Girlfriend says, I know from experience that rich people are not affected by natural disasters.
This is true to a certain extent, but the prosperity of a rich person's business is dependent on people being able to spend money there, right? So there is a correlation at some level. I'm not saying it's sitting in front of them all day long, blinking in their face like everybody else is. But there is a benefit to them preventing the effects of natural disasters at that level.
The biggest incentive for companies is to make quarterly forecasts, right? To hit their quarterly earnings. And so that's really this kind of short-term grind that any business, well, most businesses have this incentive to achieve.
Well, a lot of these big companies want to see natural disasters. Your Home Depots, your building product companies and such. I mean, when the price of lumber, when it went up during Katrina, it doubled. It's just like what happened last year plus,
Yeah.
And then they go build houses in places where they fucking flood again.
Now, I don't think you're correct about that, because the reason that lumber went up is no one had any. Home Depot wants to not have natural disasters so that they have lumber yards full of product to sell, and they sell it at a reasonable price all day long, every day, to millions and millions of people, not at twice the price to tens of thousands of people.
It hasn't slowed down the building, Dave. The building's still going on, bro. It's what it's done is made a house go up by $100,000.
The cost
I have to say, I've
has
noticed
definitely gone up for sure. Yeah.
What's that
here in
general thing?
Australia, it's I love how you call us the name that we actually have on screen. Do you have like a Walmart for tools?
A Walmart for tools.
That's basically Home Depot. Yeah.
Home Depot. Okay, yeah. So ours is Bunnings. We have Bunnings, right? And when Bunnings,
Oh,
Bunnings. Yeah, probably some rich American oligarch. But when COVID hit, its sales went through the roof, and it's one of the essential shops that's never closed through the entire thing, and the shelves are always empty, and they're restocking them daily. People, we haven't had a natural disaster as such, but people have still gone crazy on that sort of stuff because they've now got time
To do it.
to do it.
It was the same thing in the States, Sammy. A sheet of OSB, a sheet of 7/16 OSB. It's an oriented strand board. They use it for roofs. They use it for floors and stuff. Went from $14 up to the height. I think it was like $60 a sheet.
Yeah.
I mean, in just fucking overnight.
yeah.
But I don't think like it's a supply and demand thing at that point. I mean, if it
Absolutely.
went up to 17, no one would have talked about it, right? Like it's just okay, it's an uncomfortable price adjustment, but that's what the market will bear. But if you take a $17 product and mark it up to $60 and 9 different retailers have it, one of them's going to put it at $50 and one of them's going to put it at $45 and one of them's going to put it at $30, and they're going to sell all their product if there's product available.
Right.
So when the market overall went up to $70 on a $20 piece of lumber, it was supply and demand. There was no supply. I know for a fact there was people trying to build out here, and construction projects came to a halt.
Well, they just adjusted the cost here, and they're building houses like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. When we had that big freeze, there was a lot of busted pipes.
Yeah.
And it's just
PVC
now
pipe.
gotten back to where the stores have PVC pieces in there. I mean, like here recently, like, and the whole time before that, like you could not find a single, PVC piece like that were all the smaller pieces.
I was lucky because being a general contractor, I brought all my PVC with me. I never got rid of any of my plumbing parts. And when that went to shit, I went down to the retirement center and was giving away parts to people because they weren't nowhere to be found to be bought.
Yeah.
Hang on. So when your plumbing parts went to shit, you went down to the retirement center.
No, there's a lot of people that I deal with.
I'm just saying, listen to that sentence.
No, but if it's like an old folks home where there's a lot of people that I go down there and volunteer.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in there, and I went and fixed probably a dozen old ladies' places, different plumbing problems and such. Texas fucking froze, dude, inside and out.
You're
If
saying
we didn't
these
have-
old ladies had plumbing problems?
It wasn't funny, Sammy.
Never mind, John.
Yeah, I got where you was going, but it was pretty fucking sad.
Sometimes you reach for the joke and it doesn't land.
It didn't land.
Sometimes it doesn't land. I
No,
know.
it was an ugly thing. I mean, people at the Home Depots and shit couldn't get the stuff, and babies need water. It was a fucking terrible thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the plumbing companies got first dibs on it. From what I understand, all the parts went to plumbing companies, and they were just keeping the plumbers going and fixing the problems. But everyday people who can just fix their little issue couldn't do it. It was just
parts. I was down there giving away shit just to help people out.
Yeah. Well, that's admirable, John. That's admirable.
I've never dealt anything like that.
Yeah.
The run on the PVC. I mean, you couldn't buy anything. It wasn't available. And then there was people on the internet and shit gouging for. I know what I've got.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'll sell you a couple elbows for $10. And I'm like, fuck. That's one of the reasons I wanted to help people and give it away. You know,
People will try to scam and price gouge in any situations, but when there's chaos like a natural disaster or war, history is littered with people trying to bilk the government with stuff that doesn't work.
Even like Amazon, I remember like going to Amazon. I only needed one little piece, and it would have made things all right. But I go to Amazon and they want to sell me 20 of the little set items, and it's like obviously more expensive. I was like, fuck it. I guess I'm just gonna wait or rig this.
Tobin, when I've found things like that in the past, I've bought a dozen of something, kept one and sold 10 and made more money on the 10 because a bunch of people out there will pay more per unit to get one. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in on the Bunnings thing. I looked up who owns Bunnings, and I forget who it was who mentioned it in here. Was it Tesla Ranger?
It might have been.
No, it was Marmaduke.
Marmaduke. Yeah. So West Farmers does own Bunnings. They own Blackwoods, NZ Safety, Greencap, Bullivant, Corrigas, Blackwoods Protector, Safety Source, Tool Fasteners, Packaging House, King G, Stubbies, and
King G.
Yeah. So they own
And
all of them.
Stubbies.
So you look up who
we'll
owns
see you later.
Take care, John.
See you,
Hey,
John.
John.
So you look up who owns them, and it's a company called InvestNet. And InvestNet's primary, those are the primary investors. They own the overwhelming majority of the stock in the company. So you look up at who founded InvestNet, and it's a guy named Bill Krager. And Bill Krager, I'm not making this up, formerly of Rittenhouse Financial Services, which is Rittenhouse is the name that most movie companies use as the evil company, and
Rittenhouse.
you'll hear Rittenhouse a lot. So
That's funny.
Bill Krager actually graduated from Fairfield University in Connecticut, and most of the people in charge of this company are from the eastern seaboard of the United States. So you're not wrong when you say it's owned by a bunch
Yes.
of Americans. Yeah.
I fucking knew it.
The university he went to is a Jesuit Catholic university and mission. Yeah. So it's actually, I mean, you can find out this stuff on the internet fairly quickly. If
You'd say one thing about the Jesuits is
Yeah.
that they're smart evil and not dumb evil.
But did you see, Dave? I knew I didn't need to.
I hear you. It was
Isn't
pretty
that
obvious.
sad?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty scary because King G is a really big Australian company too.
Yeah.
Same as, well, not so much now, but like from the 60s right through to the early 90s, Stubbies, which is actually shorts are coming back now, but Stubbies, you remember the 60s style shorts.
I think you might be echoing, Dave.
Oh, really? I can't hear it.
Then you must be the one that's
Yeah,
echoing.
that means it's you. Stubby shorts. They're the little shorts with the pocket on the front.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Jesse Bear points out that Amazon sellers were price gouging everything at the start of COVID. Yeah, the more chaos there is, the less secure people are. You're always going to find unscrupulous folks trying to.
You know what? We have a really bizarre. It might not be bizarre. It might be a global problem, but there's a milk shortage in different parts of Asia, specifically baby formula. And what happens is a lot of people are buying up the stock from Australian shops and sending it overseas.
Oh, really?
To the point where there's a shortage here. So stores have had to limit what you can purchase, but people just make a purchase, go out, come back in, make a purchase, go out. So it hasn't helped greatly, but
Yeah.
And that's, I think, I'm okay with everyone sending some overseas to their family and whatever, but filling your trolley with baby formula
Yeah.
is not fair.
It's not, and desperate people are going to do desperate things, unfortunately, right? If the government doesn't help them, or and they're from failed states, or they're from states that don't have the kind of resources that other countries do, and they're in a tough bind. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is besides like trying to make every single country less shit. I mean, that might sound unrealistic, but maybe I'm an internationalist at heart.
It's so simple, Andy. Why hasn't anyone done it yet?
Well, I think there's a lot of tribalism. There's just a lot of tribalism, and it's like what happened in World War One. Once again, I was listening to this podcast on the Revolutions podcast, and they're talking about the socialists in these different countries at the beginning of World War One that were all talking about the Internationale and international brotherhood and sisterhood before World War One, and then once it started, they're like, "Yeah, screw you guys. We're all about our country and supporting our work ethic, our war effort."
It's like the EU. I really admire the idea of it. I don't know how well it works.
From what I've seen, at least I remember the Greek financial crisis. I was just looking at it. It's like they seem to have taken the worst aspects of the U.S. financial system, put it together. I don't know if it's changed recently, because just from this talk, just from what I was just talking about California putting in more money than it getting out, and New Jersey putting in more money than it gets back. That's just normal here, but in European countries, there isn't that kind of mentality. So people in Germany, for example, would be like, "What do you mean we're putting more money into the EU than we're getting back? That makes us angry." And there's that whole scenario with the Greek debt crisis showed the inherent flaws of the common currency.
Yeah,
it's all fixable, mind you, but.
No one wants to fix it.
If I'm not mistaken, you're the same guy who said burn it all to the ground.
I have heard you say that, Andy.
I do like burning. I do like burning stuff to the ground.
Well, that's part of the process to get to fixing things. You gotta, clear away stuff, and then you start rebuilding.
Yeah.
You gotta clear away the rubble.
There's a lot of cancer to be taken away. Like those cops in Massachusetts who quit because of the vaccine mandate. 20% of the state troopers. Fuck those guys.
But we had something
hang on, it was
like
20.
that in Australia. A whole station of firefighters quit their jobs.
Yeah.
I think it was.
What were you going to say, Dave?
They say 20% of the state troopers, but like how many state troopers is that? Are we talking about like the less than 1%, or like what does it work out to in the grand scheme of things? Are these just a bunch of goofballs at the bottom end of the barrel? Like, is this the part that we would scrape out and throw away at the end of the day?
Well, I think, and this is going to be a little radical, that the cops who are quitting because of vaccine mandates are probably not the best supporters of civil rights.
There'd definitely be a correlation between their epistemological thought process about how things work and what is true and what is not. So yeah, I think we have a good argument there, right?
Yeah, they're definitely not worried about others' well-being at all.
Yeah. So is it bad for narcissists to leave the police force? I don't think so.
These are the kind of guys who, if they drive over a deer on the highway, they go, "Hey, I think you hit a deer." And the other guy next to him goes, "Back up and check." Chris
Maria points out here, I've seen such selfishness during the pandemic. We need more people to think of others. Diapers and plumbing parts seem small, but imagine if everyone thought of others. Yeah, you're right, Cryptomaria.
How horrible it would be to run out of diapers.
Dude, I
Like
don't even know what that would be like.
I think you just put the
a lot of hand washing, a lot of washing clothes.
at some point you would just put the sink strainer over the sink, put the baby on top, right? And just let her rip, right? Like, yeah, little hose off, a little dry off. There you go. Put the mobile.
Yeah, in Australia, we just let them go outside and run loose naked.
You got to be careful about the dingoes, I've heard. But yes,
The dingoes, snakes, magpies.
right.
The drop bears, yeah.
Fertilances.
Hey, don't make jokes about those. My buddy got bit by one of those in Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah.
By a what?
No, it's that is something you do not want to come across.
Yeah.
What is that?
A Fer-de-Lance viper. They're like the fourth most toxic snake or venomous snake on the planet. Yeah. Yeah, he was doing some anti-poaching patrols and stepped over a bunch of leaves, and it happened to be a den. And this thing came out and hit him on the back of the leg. He said it was like being hit by a 2x4.
Yeah.
And his leg puffed up. He ended up in the hospital for weeks. So, yeah.
I think that's like one of the worst snakes to get bit by.
It is. Yeah, it's like top 4 or top 5 or something. Yeah,
I think you need to get some really high boots, but even that isn't a secure, it isn't going to save you if it really leaps up high.
Yeah, and if they hit you that hard and you're wearing like the mesh protection for bugs and small snakes, it's not going to do much other than maybe trap the snake in your leg.
Hilarious though that may be. Hilarious.
Well, you know that venomous snakes, the large ones, the big ones, if they snap at you and get you, they're very unlikely to pump a lot of venom into you because they know they can't eat you and they know they don't want to run out of venom. Sure. The little snakes, when they bite you, they are biting to save their lives.
And they drop the lot.
Yeah. They empty their glands. They like absolutely pump you full of venom. Yeah.
Well, that's another. I'm going to put that on my pile of anxieties, Dave and General Baker. It's going to add it to the pile over here. Small, wee snakes.
Andy, I meant to tell you I worked the other day.
Yeah.
And I was on the dock. It didn't even rain on us. I was like just on a flat surface working next to trucks. And it was very unexciting. There was no elevation.
Oh, good.
Very little risk.
Very little. Very good, Dave.
Very little risk.
My prayers were answered.
It was like walking through a sidewalk risk, like that low level of risk. It was yeah.
Nice.
As long as you cross on the lights,
Right, you're safe.
Yeah.
Good.
You would have loved it.
Sounds like the ideal day for me at your job. Oh, no, here's something from Tyler Ranger. Members of this genus, currently consisting of 45 species, are responsible for more human deaths in the Americas than any other group of venomous snakes. It seems like a lot.
It seems like something you'd want to avoid. Do they have these in Australia? Because it sounds like they need them.
Right.
What are they called?
Fer-de-Lance vipers.
I don't think so.
Actually, I was trying to say there's a spider that sounds like Fer-de-Lance. I think I mispronounced it. I think it's a Ferdinand, or there's a nasty spider there in Australia that I recently learned about that is pretty bad to get bitten by as well. And that's what I actually meant, was the spider.
Okay.
A Ferdinand or something? I don't know.
Well, it's called, I'm looking at the Britannica article right now. It's one of the extremely venomous snakes of the viper family, found in diverse habitats and cultivated lands. So yeah, that sounds, you need some mongoose. You need some mongoose. That's what I think. I don't know, mongooses?
Yeah, well, there's mongooses, and what's the is it badgers that take them out as well?
Or maybe badgers.
Yeah, that's the one. Is a healthy population of badgers in Australia.
Right. Wolverines maybe.
Oh, Wolverines are not; those are untrainable.
Go ahead, Dave.
There's guys, seriously, there's guys who go out into the woods and they go hunting and they see a black bear and they're like, oh, there's a black bear over there. We'll make some noise. It'll go away. They walk by a wolverine and they're like, shit, let's get out of here.
Marmaduke there's got it. Whitetail spider, a funnel spider. That's the spider I was thinking of.
Those are the baddies.
So that's actually an old wives' tale. I've been bitten by a whitetail spider. It's just like a wasp sting. It just stings a bit. The myth is that they're a necrotic spider and that your flesh will rot. So we always, were scared of them growing up, more so than funnel webs or redbacks, which can actually kill you.
Yeah.
But then I was bitten by one when I was a young teen and caught it in a jar, took it to the doctor, and he explained to me that they'll just give you a sting.
Yeah.
And it was a big one too.
There's
I've shared something if you wanted to.
I was just looking
have
up
a bit of fun when you finish talking, of course.
In the Pacific Northwest, we have the brown recluse spiders and we have the black widow spiders. But we have like 10 other spiders that also do orb weaving and that are big, nasty looking spiders. So every now and then you're walking through the woods and you're like, well, there's only like a 1 in 5 chance that this can kill me, but let's walk around anyway.
Right. I'm gonna share this right here. Let's see what's going on.
Now this is an Aussie guy, so there may be a few F-bombs if anyone's sensitive to that.
Okay.
Let me just put it on here.
This poor banana.
Play.
3 things you need to know before come to Australia.
Oh.
Number 3, intruding snakes. The snakes here just love to break into our houses. And you can't stop them because they'll always find a way in, even if it's coming through your fucking toilet. So wherever you're staying in Australia, never assume that you're alone. Number 2, gigantic spiders. I'm not going to lie to you. The spiders here are fucking massive, but most of them are completely harmless. But not this guy, the funnel web spider. Have a look at the fangs on him. Fuck me. So make sure if you ever see a funnel-shaped web, stay away from it because you might get bitten. And number 1, shark attacks. People come to Australia to surf, which is why it's a shame that there's great white sharks in our oceans. Now, the stats show you're more likely to get killed by a cow than a shark. But attacks still happen. And you know why? Because from underneath the ocean, you look like a seal, a great white's favorite meal. So if you come to Australia to surf and you value your life, keep an eye out for them sharks, mate.
Well, I and I'm sure this is what everyone else was thinking, that this guy's street cred is leveled up because he's got something that looks like he's been in a brawl or something, right? He's had
one of those animals have attacked him.
Right. He had to punch out a great white shark or something.
Well, there was a guy who's experimenting with different ways to prevent surfers from being mistaken for food, and he put I think it was 1.5 inch wide reflective tape, that silver reflective tape down the bottom of the board, 2 inches apart. And it breaks up the lines of the surfboard so much that it doesn't actually look like a prey item. And they do like a couple of ziggy-zaggy lines on it as well. But if you actually do that underneath your board, he says, no one who's been surfing on my surfboard has ever been attacked by a shark. But only like 1 in a million surfers have ever been attacked by a shark, right?
Yeah, that would be a hard thing to test out.
I'm pretty sure from underneath it's a silhouette because of the sunlight, and doesn't it's irregardless of what's on the bottom. It's just a black.
So what you're suggesting is that there's some LED lighting.
Yeah, LED lighting would be my way to go.
That would be, and you could double blind test this, right? Probably without much loss of life.
No. There are people who go out to New Zealand, to where Shark Island or whatever Seal Island is, where the sharks come to feed, and they actually drag around a little. It's a black painted flutter board with 2 wings glued onto it so that it resembles a seal. And they do the sharks attacking from underneath, coming out of the water, and they measure how high they go and all that. Well, you could go out there with a boat with 6 different iterations of this and see which ones get hit and which ones don't. And obviously, if you can drag around one with ziggy-zaggy LED lights that run off a AA power pack or a little lithium-ion power pack, then yeah, everybody should install those in their surfboards, right?
In terms of the experimental design, I would have to, the how the thing moves in the water, right? How the boat or how the surfboard moves in the water would have to somewhat replicate how humans move or see, on surfboards.
Well, the idea is to make them look as much like a seal as possible, and they already do that. They already have the little things that make them bob up and down.
Yeah.
So if you made it look like that, but then you put lights on it so it looks different from a seal, and it was the size of a human being, say, 6 feet average, or whatever, 5'10", 5'8", whatever the average height is. Yeah. Then I think you're putting some solid data together. But just saying, no one on a pink surfboard's ever been hit by a shark. Okay.
And there's something else to this too as well, because we've started to get a lot of drone footage and like watching the movements of sharks. I think there's a lot of like we're going in one direction and the shark is going in one direction. The shark's not looking for food, but we're just running into each other and getting caught up in their teeth.
I want to see that headline.
I'm serious though.
I just ran into the great white's teeth. I want to see that headline. That would be
great. White apologizes for yeah, right.
On trial, the great white would be like, "Hey, those 30 people or so, they just ran into my teeth."
I will say, like out here, in the pass, they call it, on the West Coast, there is a passage that goes from basically from Seattle, from Vancouver up to Alaska. It's called the Inside Passage, and ships now have to slow down, and they have to monitor the amount of noise they're making into the ocean, because whales, cetaceans, whales, dolphins, all that use sonar are completely blinded by the noise. It's like how we always have that conception of being abducted by aliens. There was a huge white light. I couldn't see anything and my ears were ringing. That's essentially what a whale is looking at out there. And it's very, very easy for them to become disoriented or stop swimming or go take a breath at the surface and get hit by the ship. So it happens, unfortunately, it happens far too frequently.
I've heard that the Navy also uses this high energy sonar that screws up their senses, their ability to navigate around.
They have the ability. Now, they have the ability to use very, very high powered units. If they're looking for something, if something goes missing, if a ship or an airplane goes down, they will ping hard.
Yeah.
It is incredible how those sonars work.
But the Navy and the military do what's called passive sonar. So they're listening for other things making noise in the ocean. And the passive sonar array that goes up to the Aleutian Islands, I have been told by the guy who's seen the data on it and worked the system, has told me that if the fishermen on the West Coast knew what he knew, there wouldn't be anything left in the ocean.
No.
And that's just with passive, right? So when a wave crashes and that sound travels through the ocean to the bottom, it goes outwards and everywhere. And
it oscillates. Yeah, it spreads. Yeah.
And they're picking up all of those sounds. Every ship that goes over top is basically shining a big white light underneath it as it crosses the ocean, right? Yeah.
So the whales think they're going up to heaven.
They may
whale heaven.
I mean, if you've ever been in a room with a flashbang, it's like having that, but having that for like 10 minutes solid as that ship passes over top, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty sad to think about.
Well, there's sort of a thing where the more whales that we have and the more traffic we have in the ocean, the more likely it is there's going to be incidents of them being hit by ships, right? But a healthy whale population can overcome that, right? So that's the ideal in our world, because it doesn't look like we're going to stop shipping anytime soon.
Well, I think our best hope is that there's going to be less fucking people in the future, if all the trend lines, and not even because of COVID, of course, but in terms of what specialists have been saying for years at this point. That
can we call this the canard variant?
This is a canard. This is real. This is real. This is the great hope, is that there's just going to be less of us fucking monkeys around in like 100 years.
Yeah, I think with the cost of housing and food and everything going up, that families are likely to go in that direction of smaller size, for sure.
Yeah.
It makes logical sense, but not everything that we're dealing with these days runs down those black and white lines of this is logical and this is illogical.
Right. And this is a good rule of thumb, is that if you expect the trend line to go exactly as it has been going for the last 20 years or 50 years, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. If the entire civilization doesn't collapse. and if countries still continue broadening the social safety net, then there's going to be a lot less of us in 100 or 200 years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it already the trend that developed countries,
indeed,
populations are declining? I mean, immigration might help and things, but
they're Western Europe's bleeding people. So is Russia, for maybe other reasons, losing people. It's true. The only reason why the States, why we have a general increase over the years of population is because of immigration. I think the only countries that are still really blowing up in terms of population are countries like Nigeria, which are actually going to have more people than here in the States, I think, in another 20 years. So there'll be more people in Nigeria than there will be here in the States in something like 20 years. That's what I've seen.
How is like the Indian subcontinent and Indonesia? They've been exploding in population for the last 20 years, but have they slowed down at all?
I think, well, that's a good question. Well, you need 2.1 children for every woman, basically. That's the basic
population. Yeah.
That's just a stable population. So I don't know what it is. I mean, it's easily Googleable.
Yeah, that is why the Catholic Church for years and years was saying their number is 2.3 because they want to experience growth. They want more Catholics, not less.
Yeah.
But they've lost more to attrition, to people like realizing that
it's a bunch of shit.
Coming to the conclusion that this isn't for them.
This isn't for them. Yes.
Yeah.
I like Andy's version.
Yep.
I try to be nice because I hope that, there are people listening who don't want to understand that there is a difference between somebody saying, I think you might be wrong and you should probably look into it.
Yes.
And people who go out and rant and rave and tell them they're stupid. That's not a good way to have a conversation with somebody.
Right. So I'm looking at a fertility rate in the subcontinent. I'm just looking at India right now. And I think right now it seems like women are just at the 2.1 rate, maybe 2.2, 2.3. The projection is that it's going to be well below that after like 2030. And it will be in significant decline after that. I know, well, of course, we talked about China losing people due to China's policies.
Yeah.
How's North Korea doing these days?
Never good. They're never good, Dave. Never good. Gosh, how is that Stalin-esque hermit state doing? You can always guess it's never good.
Well, I think it was Joe Rogan, and I know you love his commentary, but he did say something that was entirely funny about them. He said we've got to get Who was the basketball player that went over there and visited the leader?
Crazy
Dennis
guy.
Rodman.
Rodman, that's it.
Dennis Rodman. Yeah, he said he wants to give Rodman a big bag of weed and get him to go over there and smoke their up, because if he changed to Kim Bong Un, they'd have a much better country.
As long as North Korea is a valuable buffer state for China, that place is never going to get better. And the best thing that they could hope for, if that family disappears, that runs North Korea, is that China manipulates the system so that it has another less toxic authoritarian system in there.
That's an interesting point. I mean, what would happen? Would that turn, like, it's an interesting thought experiment. Like, if you took that family and poofed them out of existence, there was no person alive who was alleged to have hit 18 hole-in-ones at his first try at golf, and who had like flown off the planet to the moon in their dreams, and who had done all these miraculous things. If you created a void where they don't have that person, what do those people turn to? What do they latch onto? And having been a part of that, I mean, you talk about the American big lie. This is the bigger big lie, right? What big lie do they latch onto next? Does Trump go over there and take over?
I would guess it would be another kind of military dictatorship, right, propped up by the Chinese. That would still have an adversarial relationship with the West, because China doesn't want North Korea to stop existing, and it definitely doesn't want them to cozy up to Western powers.
No. Well, what about absorbing them as a state or a?
Well, here's the beautiful thing, and here's a great system, right, that the Chinese have with the North Koreans. In an ideal world, this is how I'm sure that, some people in China are thinking about this, is that they're like your crazy uncle or your crazy friend, right? So the North Koreans are like your crazy friend, and you get to play good cop versus their bad cop. So it definitely, so hey, if I'm China and Microphone's crazy, he's the crazy North Koreans. It's like, hey, I don't know if I can control my buddy here. He's kind of crazy. Look at his googly eyes. He's willing to pop off. So maybe you should listen to what he says. Do what I tell you to do. Maybe you should do what he says. And this is the Chinese-North Korean government relationship right now. Except the fact that Microphone really is fucking crazy. And Microphone could be like, if you don't treat me well, you don't want to know what's going to happen to you either. So, so the best case scenario, I think, for the Chinese is to, if the Zhang family just disappeared, is to have compliance, but crazy to us at least, client state down there.
You don't think? Well, do you think the Koreas will ever realign?
Not in our lifetime.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of not in our lifetime.
Wow.
Not in our lifetime. They're not Germany. The reason why Germany reunified is because the Soviet Union imploded. Do you really see the Chinese government imploding at any time?
Yeah. I just don't know which to. I think it would be kind of a coin flip, and it would depend on what influences are able to get through the door quickest and fastest. And I think you're right. China would be there. Yeah.
Because once again, let's remember, during the Korean War, they sent thousands of troops to attack American troops because we got too close.
Yeah.
And geography doesn't change, right, in any significant way.
Yeah.
So they're still looking at North Korea as a buffer state against the land invasion.
So what you're saying is the Chinese people aren't going to cause an uprising yelling, "Build that wall! Build that wall!"
No. If anything, the current guy in charge of China, Xi, I think his name is, he is being more conservative and doing less free market reforms. And if he gets his way, he's just going to shoot China in the dick, because that's what authoritarians do to their own economy. They can't do both. They cannot do both. The only reason why the Chinese have done so well so far is because it's all been low-hanging fruit, and they've been stealing technology. Once the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, and the Soviets, and the communists realized that this potentially imperils their own power, then you see what is happening right now. Where Xi is like,
Well, the writing's on the wall already, right?
Yeah. So they would rather have power than to have more of a free market system, as most despots would.
Well, that all makes sense.
Yeah. I read things. That's what I do. I read things.
Yeah. Okay, I think we need a palate cleanser here. Is there a kitten video we can run?
Right. Well, you would hope so. I don't know if you heard the huge thunderclap that happened maybe 10 minutes ago. It was like this huge. There was a flash of light, and I'm going, "Oh, this is it. This is the thing. It's over now." But it wasn't. It was just lightning. And then the thunder crashed.
Were you thinking, so this is what a stroke's like?
I was thinking, yes, Sammy. In fact, at first I thought stroke, because it's certainly not a nuclear blast, because there's no wave, there's no shock wave, right? So, and then I heard the thunder, and I go, "Oh, that's good. I like that."
I was down working on the dock the other day, and it was pouring with rain. It was raining cats and dogs. It was just really, really, really heavy rain. And we were inside one of the lunchroom mobiles and hanging out, having a cup of coffee, and we heard and felt this enormous boom.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow, if that was lightning, that had to be right on top of us. And then we went outside, and they were landing the 40-ton lids from the ship. They were taking off the lids from the container ship and put them on the dock right in front of us. And they're like, oh, that's disappointing.
So Dave, during a lightning storm,
they shut the dock down.
I was going to say they have to shut
3
it down.
kilometers of the dock. If there's a lightning strike, they shut down.
Yeah.
And if the wind is over, I believe it's 25 kilometers an hour at a steady or 55 at a gust.
Okay.
They shut down until it passes. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Safety first.
My brother used to wear a T-shirt that said, "I was struck by lightning. What's your excuse?"
Nice. Very nice. I'm having technical issues here. My wires are literally crossed. I thought I was going to lose everybody for a second or two, but I'm just
Andy, your audience is absolutely eating me alive.
They're eating me.
I'm feeling so ashamed right now.
Oh, because
Wash
you didn't wash your hands?
I admitted that I didn't wash my hands when I peed live on stream. And luckily, no one heard the peeing, but they heard the flush.
Oh, Sandy.
And then, and I was being asked a question, so I ran back and didn't wash my hands, and everyone went, "We just heard you go to the toilet, and we know you didn't wash your hands." I was like, "Fuck! we did lose you, Andy."
Oh,
excellent! Now that Andy's gone. Welcome to the Sam, Grant, Tobin, and Dave show.
Let's rename it.
With Andy again, how do we end the show?
It's the disappearing.
He can
cat.
come back.
The disappearing cat morning show.
That's it.
Andy's back, spoiling our fun.
All right. Am I back?
What happened to your lighting, Andy?
I don't know what happened to my lighting, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I've had wire issues. Things started falling apart.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And of course, it just happened towards the end of the show too. So hey, I guess I'm going to close the show now that I have everything back working. Thanks everyone. And Sammy, I don't know what to say. Shamalahama.
It was once.
Shamalahama.
I promise I wash my hands.
Okay. Everyone in the chat, thanks for watching. We're going to do the same crazy thing all over again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Hooroo.